What's up guys, welcome back to another video to me for predictions for Gameweek 32 in the Premier League. Manchester City against Crystal Palace. This one's a really hard one to call because if Man City play a proper team, if Pep Guardiola uses his brain, Manchester City will win this comfortably. However, if he does what he did against Manchester United and he plays the likes of Kovacic, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva all together, no Doku, no Savinho, Palace absolutely can get something. I am going to back Guardiola and go 2-1 Man City because I'm hoping he'll learn from his mistakes, but whenever I've backed him, I've always been wrong, so yeah, I don't know why I'm doing it again, man. Brighton and Hove Albion against Leicester. Leicester haven't scored in months. Ruud van Nistelrooy is arguably the worst man in Premier League history, but he is very lucky that Russell Martin was here earlier on in the campaign. Brighton have hit a real tricky patch of form, and it's no surprise that it's come when Lewis Dunk's returned to the team. He is awful, and if Brighton want to be a European challenging club, he cannot be starting games, man. I know he's one of your own, he's from the area and everything, he loves the club, but he's not good enough. However, Leicester City are awful, and I mean, he doesn't play anyway, but Buonanotte would not be allowed to play because he's on loan from Brighton. So I'm going 2-0 to the Albion. I think they should have enough about them, could be even more with how bad Leicester are defensively. Lost 8 in a row, they've lost 15 out of their last 16 games or something mental like that. Like, how have you stuck with Van Nistelrooy through that, man? Get rid of him, please. Nottingham Forest against Everton, two teams that are very strong defensively. Forest won at Goodison Park earlier in the season. Everton did get a really good point against Arsenal and they've only lost 1 out of their last 11 games. After losing at Villa Park last week, I think Nottingham Forest kind of do need to win just to re-strengthen the grip they've got on their top 4 place. Well, to be fair, it is now confirmed that 5 teams from England are going to be Champions League next season, but obviously they have allowed Newcastle within touching distance. I do think they're going to get Champions League anyway because the other teams are too inconsistent and they do have a decent enough lead, but these are sorts of games that they need to win, even though Everton are a very strong team, defensively very hard to break down. I'm going 1-0 Nottingham Forest. We could see Chris Wood back, which would be huge. Obviously they've also missed our 1 year while he's been out, which is a real shame because it would have been a nice time for him to show everyone what he's about because he was really good a couple of years ago. Southampton against Aston Villa. Southampton already relegated now. You know what I mean? That's mental. It's so early. Aston Villa won a really good run of form in all competitions, but they did just lose at the Parc des Princes. So they've got the second leg of that coming up. They might have an eye on that. Southampton might just feel no pressure now because they're already relegated, but I'm going to back Villa to get it done. 2-1. The fact that they can bring in someone like Daniel Marlon, who didn't play against PSG, or Asensio, who didn't start, they've got a good squad. And obviously now that they've got more of their squad back, they are able to rotate more, and this should still be a pretty comfortable win. Arsenal against Brentford. Arsenal absolutely destroyed Real Madrid in midweek. Declan Rice, you are my boy. I love you so much. I am so glad I backed you all this time. My favourite football player in the world that is not called Jimmy Dunn. Obviously, going to the Bernabeu is a tricky task, especially with how often Real Madrid get favourable calls in those sorts of games. And the Premier League is pretty unattainable now for Arsenal, if we're going to be real. There's obviously a chance, but it's unlikely. And for that reason, why even risk anyone? Rotate everyone from that game against Real Madrid. Bring in the fringe players, bring in the under 21s if you haven't got enough squad players. And I say this as a QPR fan, yeah, I absolutely detest Brentford. If Arsenal do play a strong team, I'm not going to complain because that means they'll definitely win. But I also hate Real Madrid and I do want to see them out of Europe. I'm still going to back Arsenal to get the job done. 2-1 to the Gunners. Wanyeri is going to score in this one, and you know what? Tierney's going to get 2 assists. How about that? Chelsea against Ipswich. Now, Chelsea's first leg in the Conference League did not look like it was going to end well, but in the second half they did do very well. Noni Madueke back from injury. Fantastic performance from him. Cole Palmer though, another stinker. I can't lie, I really like him. I think he's a great player. But he does need to step up more, man, because he's been unacceptable these last few months. He's been absolutely awful. And part of the reason is because Maresca's playing in the left half space now instead of the right. But still, he's got to do better. And Ipswich did win this meeting at Portman Road. I might be being a bit optimistic here, but I'm going 1-1. Obviously, Ipswich, after losing to Wolves, are done. There's no chance of them surviving. But I think they might make the game a bit too physical for Chelsea. We saw what happened at Portman Road earlier in the season. And Chelsea, they drew with Brentford last time, so Liverpool against West Ham. I think this is going to be a tricky game. West Ham have been much more defensively solid since Graham Potter took over, but they haven't been good enough going forward. Obviously, Liverpool only have the Premier League left, and they're going to try and get that sewn up as soon as possible, just to avoid any unnecessary I guess, worry. They smashed West Ham at the London Stadium. I don't think that's going to happen this time, but they will still win 1-0. It'll be a cagey one. I think Jota's probably going to get the goal. There'll probably be a dubious decision in this one as well, but yeah, I just don't think West Ham have enough quality going forward. Although Fulkrug is back and he did look pretty good against Wolves and against Bournemouth as well. So you never know. Like he is someone that, you know, doesn't get too involved in the play, but he could just pop up in an area and get a goal. And to be fair, he is the exact sort of player that Bowen thrives playing with, because he can just bring the ball down for him, and we all know how good Jarrod Bowen is. Wolves against Tottenham. They drew this game early in the season 2-2. Tottenham did just draw with Frankfurt, so they have to go to Germany and win, which means they're not going to take this game fully seriously. They're going to rotate a lot. Wolves are in very good form. They've won 3 in a row, and I think they're going to win 2-1. Ange Postecoglou, like Ruud van Nistelrooy, like Russell Martin, one of the worst managers in Premier League history. Absolutely criminal how he's still in with a job. It'll be another loss. It'll be another really poor result for Tottenham. That keeps them firmly in the bottom half of the table. Newcastle against Manchester United. Newcastle have a game in hand on everyone before this game's even played anyway. But they have a pretty good recent record against Manchester United. They obviously won at Old Trafford early in the season. They've won their last 2 against St James's Park without conceding a goal. They obviously smashed Leicester last time. They beat Brentford after the cup win as well. I'm backing them to get the job done here fairly comfortably, 3-0. Man United, like Tottenham, just played in the Europa League. They drew 2-2 against Lyon, but they do have their second leg at home, which should benefit them a little bit. And again, like Tottenham, they've got no reason to really try in the Premier League anymore. They're not going to get relegated. They're not going to have a respectable finish. So just spin it off. Newcastle the quality to absolutely destroy Manchester United in my opinion. The Red Devils' attack is very limp. Harvey Barnes has been absolutely fantastic in the last few weeks. Even if Gordon is fit, I would like to see Harvey starting. Isak may not have been great in the last game, but he is Alexander Isak. You know he can just do something out of nothing. And I think the intensity will be too much for Man United to cope with. Bournemouth against Fulham. Bournemouth are in pretty bad form. They've really fallen off since some of their players returned from injury, which is kind of weird. It's usually the opposite. But Fulham are also the most bipolar football club in the league. Like they win a game and they lose a game. They win a game, they lose a game. They win a game, they lose a game. And they won their last game, so I'm going 2-1 Bournemouth. Obviously, as a QPR fan, I do want Fulham to lose because I don't want them in Europe. It would be mental. But at the same time, they would probably take a loss here because their next game is against Chelsea. And if this trend continues, they would beat them again. And I wouldn't be too against that, to be honest with you. Bournemouth are still with a chance at Europe, man, because of how inconsistent Fulham are, Brighton are, even Chelsea and Manchester City have been. It's still very open, but they do need to start winning these games because their form has been unacceptable. Doesn't predict this week. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you soon for another video.